Hi everyone, it's Paul from This Design That. Today I'm going to show you how I built my vacuum exposure unit. Now this is more of a guide of how not to build it, and it's kind of why I've really never done a build video on this. It does do the job, it does work, but this is probably one of the first things that I built, and honestly it's a bit crappy. I could probably do a much better job now, but I've had a few questions over the years on the channel, people asking me kind of what exactly I use and what is this thing. So this is a vacuum unit, and basically what happens is it's got a rubber lid on the top. You put your screen in and you've got the glass here. You have your exposure unit, I usually have it like 1 meter away. You suck all the air out of it so you get a nice contact between the glass, the film positive and the screen, and then you expose your image. They are very, very simple to build. Let's just kind of go over what exactly it is. Really, all it is just a wooden frame. You can see I've just got some, these are just 40mm by 40mm timber. Very, very cheap timber. This was probably cost in total about £20 in timber, less than that. And then this is the most expensive part, obviously, the glass. I was looking in local stores and on classified ads and all sorts of things trying to find a pane of glass, but I couldn't find anything that met my requirements. And also a lot of the glass that you buy, it's not actually the type of glass that you want for an exposure unit. Now I don't know how much of a difference it really does make because I haven't got the two different types of glass, but basically when you're building an exposure unit you want low iron glass. So it's a specific type of glass. It's used in picture frames and things like that. Basically, it's very optically clear, and it's what they use in picture frames. Because it's very, very clear, it lets through, supposedly, UV rays more, basically. So stuff that is high iron glass will block UV rays. Low iron glass will let the UV rays through, and that is what you want. You want the UV spectrum penetrating this glass and hitting your emulsion, because that is what exposes the image on your screen. So this will be your most expensive part of this this build, definitely. This cost me, I think it was about £130. This was obviously cut to a custom size. I think this is, I don't know, 1200 by 900. I could be wrong, but it's around about that kind of size. And yeah, to get it cut and delivered, I think it was 120 or 130. That's what it is. And obviously I've just put lots of sealant all around the edges because you are going to be using a vacuum pump to suck all the air out of this. The reason why I built it like this is because obviously I'm doing this in I guess it's like a large bedroom. I don't have a lot of space. I don't really want a large exposure unit just sitting in the middle of my room all the time, because obviously I don't screen print, every single day. And it's really nice that I can just flip this up against the wall. It takes up zero space basically. And then when I need it, I can just pull it down. I can put the screen on it. You've probably seen videos of me using this many, many times. I'll show you a little clip of what I do. What I'll do is I'll bring it down and I'll show you kind of the mistakes that I made basically. So as you can see, I was actually trying to save some costs. And what you would usually do is you would usually make this glass pane the full width right to the edge. And the reason why you do that is because you don't want to have what I've got, which is a sill around here the air could potentially leak out of. What you want is you want your lid, and what I've got here is I've got just weatherproof sill, a double layer of weatherproof sill around the edges. You really want that to come in contact with the glass. So it just creates a much, much better sill. What I did to try and save some costs is I thought, I'll just make up the rest of the base here with plywood, and then I'll just have this sill attaching to the plywood. But obviously wood is much more porous, and yeah, basically it just didn't really work too well. You can see that I had to use a lot of silicone sealant. Then I had to, even with silicone sealant, it was still leaking because I've got all bits where the plywood join here. So I just laid down some Gorilla Tape here all along the edges, and that seems to have kind of fixed most of the issues. I think if I just spent, it was probably going to be an extra £10–20 to get the glass the full width. It would have just saved me a lot of bother. What I would have done is I would have just built the frame out of wood still. I still would have used the same wood. Then I would have just glued this glass plane onto the wood, and that's really about it. You can see that the lid, again, I'm just using some I mean, this is just 2x4. Some very, very cheap timber. I've got 2 layers of weatherseal strip. This is the stuff that you put around your doors to stop drafts. That does a really, really good job. And I've just got some pond liner here. Now this is, I think this is about 1.2mm rubber pond liner. I would have probably have gone with thinner. It's just a little bit, I mean, it does bend, but it's a bit stiff. And I think if you get some really nice thin rubber, I'd probably have gone with less than 1mm. It's just basically gonna require less suction to get that contact in between the screen and the glass. And that's about it. I've just used some rubber cement to stick the rubber sheet to this wooden frame. And then I've just got a little valve here coming out, which attaches to the hose, and it attaches to my gas pump here. Now this is also going to be quite a costly thing. It depends. I was really lucky. I think I got this for like 30 or 40 pound. A lot of dentists use gas pumps. They're very nice and quiet, very high quality. They'll probably last you a lifetime. So yeah, that's it. I mean, it takes about, I would say about a minute for it to suck the air out of. Now, the other mistake that I made when building this was thinking that I needed to have space on the outside of the frame for the rubber sheet to suck down. So for instance, as you can see, when I've got this screen here, and imagine it's being sucked, for some reason I just thought I needed to create a gap here, but basically you don't. And you can see that if I place the screen right in this corner down here, the gap doesn't do anything. It's the suction within this image. So really, as you can see, I could have made this exposure unit much smaller. This is probably the largest size that I'm probably going to work with. I did have dreams of printing A1 and A0, but it's just not very realistic. This is really the maximum size that I'm going to go, and yeah, you don't need to leave a gap around the frame. I don't know why I thought this, and I don't know why I thought that I needed to make it so big just to print on these type of screens, but that's the other mistake that I did. So exposure units are very easy to build. It's literally just 2 frames of wood with some hinges and some weather seal, and then you need just some sort of valve that comes out of it, out of the rubber sheet into a vacuum pump, and that is really it. They are very simple to build. They're much easier to build than a vacuum screen printing table, which was a much bigger pain in the ass because I had to drill, you know, like 1,000+ holes in it. Yeah, I'd highly recommend making one of these. If you are going to go with this setup, then definitely take a look at my DIY UV LED exposure unit, which is what I use when I'm exposing my screens. But this is just a really nice space saving way of getting some really nice exposures on your screen. You create a really nice contact between the glass, your screen, and the film positive. So yeah, any questions, feel free to ask. I'll put up a very basic CAD drawing so you can kind of get the idea of how I built this, but I don't really think it needs too much explanation. Anyway, I hope you're all well, and I'll catch you later.